Rain fell sideways across the black ridge of Roman 4. It hit the rocks like small stones, sharp and cold. The wind pulled at every loose thing it could find. And somewhere on that cracked stone slope, a man with a deep cut across his leg was still walking. Slowly, one step, then another. His name was Davin Hale. He was a human warrior, lost from his unit after a drone raid had gone wrong. His shoulder was burned. His leg was bleeding through the cloth he had wrapped around it. His comm beacon blinked weakly inside his coat, too tired to send a clear signal in the storm. He had been walking for 2 days. He needed shelter, any shelter. The storm was getting worse, and the cold on Roman 4 could kill a man faster than any blade. That was when he saw the dark crack in the cliff, a hollow space set deep into the stone, old, half-broken, the kind of place wild animals used when they had nowhere else to go. Davin limped toward it. He pulled the wet hair from his eyes. He pushed himself through the narrow opening, ready for anything inside, a predator, a nest of stinging insects, maybe nothing at all. But what he found was not what he expected. 4 small shapes were huddled in the back corner of the hollow, pressed together, shivering. Their eyes flashed in the dim light when they turned toward him. Small bodies, small wings, long, thin tails wrapped around each other for warmth. Hatchlings, dragon hatchlings. Davin froze. He knew dragons. Every human soldier on this world knew dragons. The treaty between the coalition and the dragon broods was thin, full of cracks, and no human ever stepped near a dragon nest without permission. To be found near hatchlings could mean death. But these 4 were not guarded. There were no adults here, no warm coils of an older dragon wrapped around them, no food, no water, only broken bits of shell on the ground, dry and old, and a smell of fear that even a human nose could pick up. The biggest of them, a charcoal-gray little thing with thin silver lines under her scales, lifted her head. She bared a row of small, sharp teeth at him. Her body trembled. She tried to look big, but she was no bigger than his arm. Davin did not move. He did not draw his weapon. He did not step closer. He just stood there, one hand on the wall, the storm howling at his back. Then slowly he lowered himself down to the wet stone floor across from them. He set his pack beside him. He let his hands fall open on his knees, empty, calm. The hatchlings watched him. He watched them back. The gray one growled, low and dry. The smallest one, a pale blue hatchling with wings that did not look finished, peeked out from behind the others. A copper one in the middle bared his teeth too, but his teeth were shaking. The 4th one, smaller and quieter, just stared at Davin with wide, tired eyes. For a long time, no one spoke. Then, in the soft, broken sounds of hatchling tongue, the gray one whispered something to the others. Davin knew a little dragon speak. He had learned it in the war years, slowly, from old books and older soldiers. The words she spoke were not loud. They were not meant for him. "Is this how it ends?" the gray one asked her brothers and sisters. "Is this the one who finishes us?" The copper one shook his head. "Let it try." The smallest blue one said nothing. She only pressed closer to the gray one's side. And then, in a voice so soft it almost was not there, the gray one asked the question that had been sitting in her chest for many, many days. "Are we cursed dragons?" Davin heard it. He did not show that he heard. He kept his face calm. But inside his chest, something tightened, the way it had tightened many years ago when he was young and lost, and no one had come for him. He did not answer, not yet. He was not ready, and they were not ready. Instead, he slowly reached into his pack. The hatchlings tensed. The gray one growled again. But Davin only pulled out a small ration pack, the kind made for long missions. Dried meat, hard bread, a little salt. He opened it with quiet hands. Then he leaned forward just a little and pushed the open pack across the stone floor, toward them. Halfway. He did not push it all the way. He left it in the space between them where they could choose. He pulled his hand back. He sat still. The storm screamed outside. Water ran in thin lines down the cliff wall. The gray hatchling did not move. The copper one looked at the food, then at Davin, then back at the food. He did not trust it. But the smallest blue one, the one with the half-grown wings, lifted her head. She sniffed the air. She looked at Davin for a long moment, then looked at her sister. Then slowly, on shaking legs, she took one small step forward. Just one. It was nothing, it was everything. The other three watched her, frozen. They did not call her back. They did not stop her. She took another step. Then she stopped, halfway between her family and the human. She looked up at Davin with eyes that were too big for her thin face. Davin did not smile. He did not move. He only nodded once very gently. The little blue hatchling lowered her head to the ration pack and ate. And outside, the storm kept screaming. But inside the hollow, for the first time in 11 days, something other than fear had entered the room. The fire was small, just a thin flame made from a heat stick Davin had pulled from his pack, set in a shallow dip in the stone. It did not give much light, but it gave enough. By that small light, the 4 hatchlings watched the human work on his own leg. He had pulled up the wet cloth. The wound under it was bad, a long cut with dried blood and fresh blood mixed together. He did not make a sound when he cleaned it. He did not flinch when he poured the cold medicine on it. He only worked, slow and steady, the way someone works who has done this many times before. The copper hatchling leaned a little closer. His name, in the broken hatchling tongue, sounded like Tavin. He was watching Davin the way young creatures watch something they cannot understand. "Why does he not cry?" Tavin whispered to his sister. The gray one, Suler, did not answer right away. She was still watching the human too. Her own wound was older, deeper, and inside her chest where no medicine could reach. She had been the one who first heard the elders speak the word cursed. She had been the one who first felt their mother fly away. "Maybe humans do not cry," she finally said, but her voice was not sure. Davin heard them. He did not show it. He finished wrapping the clean cloth around his leg and tied it off. He leaned back against the stone wall and breathed out slowly. When he opened his eyes again, the smallest one, Myra, was sitting much closer to him. Not next to him. Not yet. But close enough that he could have reached out and touched her wing if he had wanted to. He did not reach out. Instead, he spoke, in their tongue, broken slow with many wrong sounds, but it was their tongue. "You are safe here," he said. "I will not hurt you." All 4 hatchlings went still. Suler stood up so fast her tail hit the wall. You speak our words." "A little," Davin said. "Not well, but enough." Tavin made a sound that was half laugh, half growl. "A human who learns dragon words. For what? To trick us." Davin thought about that for a moment. He picked up a small piece of dried meat and turned it in his fingers. "To listen," he said, "that is all." The 4th hatchling, the quietest one with dark green scales, lowered his head onto his paws. His eyes did not leave Davin's face. Suler sat back down, but she did not look away. "Why are you here?" she asked. "I was lost," Davin said. "My people were attacked. I walked for 2 days. I found this place by chance." "And us?" Tavin said. "Did you find us by chance too?" "Yes." "And now?" Suler asked. Her voice was hard, but underneath the hardness was something thinner, almost hope and almost fear, and could not decide which it wanted to be. "Now that you have found us, what do you want?" Davin looked at her for a long moment. "Nothing," he said. "I am only sitting." The hatchlings did not know what to do with that answer. For a while nobody spoke. The fire crackled softly. The storm outside had quieted to a steady rain. Myra inched a little closer. She was still watching him as if he might disappear. Then slowly, Suler began to speak. She told him about the brood season, about how their mother had laid 4 eggs, about how the eggs had hatched late in the cold part of the cycle, about how the dragon elders, the Council of Wings, had come to inspect them, about the silver lines under their scales, about the word they had used, cursed, marked, ill-omened, about their mother's eyes, when she had been told she could not return, about 11 days alone. Suler's voice did not break. She would not let it break. but Myra beside her made a small sound that was almost a cry. And the green one pressed his face into his own tail. When Suler finished, she looked Davin straight in the eye. So tell us, human, you have heard our story. You know what we are. Now answer us truly. Are we cursed dragons? Davin did not answer right away. He did not look away either. He thought of the things he had seen in his life. He thought of soldiers his own people had called broken. He thought of children on many worlds who had been told they were less. He thought of a younger boy, long ago, who had been told the same thing, and had carried that word like a stone for years before he learned to put it down. No, he said. His voice was quiet, but it was steady. You are not cursed. I have fought beside warriors with stranger marks than yours. None of them were cursed. They were just told they were. There is a difference. The 4 hatchlings stared at him. Tavin opened his mouth. Then he closed it. He did not have an answer for that. Suler kept staring. Her eyes were shining, but she did not let the shine fall. After a long moment, she lay down on the cold stone floor. She rested her head on her paws. Her body shook just once, like something inside her was finally letting go. Then, for the first time in 11 nights, she closed her eyes. And the human with his bandaged leg and his quiet face stayed awake, watching the fire, watching the door, watching over them. Morning on Havenroman 4 came slowly. The sky did not turn blue. It turned a pale, tired gray, the color of old metal. The storm had passed in the night, and now the world outside the hollow smelled clean and sharp, the way wet stone smells when the rain has finally stopped. Davin stepped out first. He moved carefully on his bad leg. He breathed in the cold air. He scanned the ridge above and the valley below. No drones, no movement. The land was quiet. The hatchlings watched him from the mouth of the hollow. They had not followed him out. Not yet. They stood just inside the dark line of the cave entrance, 4 small shapes pressed together, waiting to see if the human would walk away now that the storm was gone. Myra again came out first. She stepped into the morning light, blinking. Her pale blue scales caught the gray sky and gave it back as something softer. She looked at the open sky above her, the long stretch of stone, the world that her own kind had told her was not for her. And then she sat down beside Davin's rock, not touching him, but not far either. One by one, the others came. Davin turned a water pouch in his hand. You need to drink, he said in their tongue. Real water, not from the floor. He pointed across the ridge to a deep, round basin in the rock. Clean, cold, good water. Come, he said, I will show you. Suler hesitated. Why? Because I will not be here forever, Davin said, and you should know how to find these things yourself. That answer caught her off guard. She had thought he might say something soft. Instead, he had said something better. He had said that they would need to keep themselves. Suler nodded once. Show us. So he showed them. He showed them the rain basins, the deep ones that held clean water for days. He showed them the moss that grew on the cold side of the rocks, the kind that was safe to chew. He showed them the burrow creatures, small fast things with gray fur that hid in the cracks between stones and came out at dawn and dusk. He showed them how to wait, how to stay still, how to be patient. Myra tried first. She crept up on a burrow creature with all the seriousness of a great hunter. Her tail twitched. Her wings flared. She pounced. She missed. She tried again. She missed again. She tried a third time. She missed by even more. She sat down hard on the stone, and her small chest heaved, and her eyes filled, and she made a sound that was very close to a cry. I cannot do it, she said. I am too small, I am too slow, I am wrong. Davin walked over slowly. He knelt down on his good knee in front of her on the cold stone. Myra, he said. He had learned her name from the others. Look at me. She looked up. You tried 3 times. Do you know what that means? She shook her head. It means you tried 3 more times than most. Most do not even try once. You did. That makes you not wrong. That makes you brave. Myra blinked at him. She did not have words for what was happening inside her small chest. Taven, the copper one, had been watching from a distance. He had been ready to laugh at his sister because that was how he hid the things that hurt. But he did not laugh now. He stood very still, with his head a little tilted, and he watched the human speak to his sister like she was a person. He had never been spoken to like he was a person. His whole short life, he had been spoken to as a problem, as a thing, as a small cursed thing that the elders had stepped past again and again on their way to better hatchlings. Something inside him cracked, quietly, without sound. He turned away. He pretended to look at a rock, but Davin saw him turn, and Davin did not say a word about it because some things should not be named out loud. The day went on. By the time the sun was high, all 4 hatchlings had eaten. Real food, caught by their own claws mostly. Davin had helped Myra catch hers on her 4th try, but he had made it look as if she had done it alone, and she had run back to the others holding her prize like it was the greatest treasure on the world. For the first time in many days, they were full. Suler sat near Davin that evening, while the others slept curled together by the fire. The sky was darker now. The stars on Haven 4 were strange and far. She watched them for a long time before she spoke. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. "Truly, why?" Davin did not look at her. He looked at the stars too. "Because no one helped me once. A long time ago, when I was young and lost and alone. I remember it. I remember every quiet moment when someone could have stopped and did not. I decided after that I would not be that absence for anyone else." Suler was quiet for a long time. "That is a strange reason," she finally said. "Yes," Davin said, "it is." But she did not move away. She stayed beside him until the fire grew low, and the cold came down, and she slept under a sky that, for the first time, did not feel like it had forgotten her. The shadow came first. It passed over the ridge like a wide, slow cloud, but there were no clouds in the sky that morning. The 4 hatchlings, who had been learning to climb a steep stretch of rock under Davin's quiet watch, froze where they stood. Myra looked up. 3 great shapes were circling above them. Black wings wide as houses, scales like polished stone, eyes that even from far below burned gold. Dragon scouts from the Council of Wings. Suler's breath caught in her throat. "They came back," she whispered. "They came back." Tavin's thin little wall of bravado fell apart in 1 second. He pressed himself flat against the rock. The green one made a small sound and tried to make himself smaller. Davin looked up too. He did not move fast. He did not reach for his weapon. He only stood up slowly, and he set his shoulders and he waited. The 3 scouts dropped from the sky. They landed hard all together in a line across the ridge. The ground shook. Dust and small stones jumped in the air. The wind from their wings flattened the dry moss against the stones. The lead scout was the largest. His scales were dark as wet coal. A long scar ran across his snout. His voice was deep enough to feel in the chest. "Human," he said in the trade tongue, "step away from the cursed brood." Davin did not move. "Human," the scout said again, lower now. "I will speak only twice. Step away." "I heard you the first time," Davin said. His voice was calm. "I am not stepping away." The scout's eyes narrowed. The 2 others shifted, their claws scraping the stone. "They are not yours," the lead scout said. "They are not even ours. They are cursed. The law of the wings is clear. The marked ones are not to be aided. Your kind signed treaty with us, and that treaty does not give a human the right to interfere in brood matters." "I have not interfered in your brood matters," Davin said. "Your council decided. Your council left. These hatchlings were no one's by your own law the moment your mothers were forbidden to return, so I claim them now, as any wanderer may claim what has been left behind on the open ridge." The lead scout went very still. Behind Davin, Suler felt her heart stop and start again. She had not known there was such a law. She was a hatchling. She did not know the old words of the treaty between humans and dragons, the careful old lines about found things and free claims. But Davin did. Davin had read them, many times, on long quiet nights between battles when there had been nothing else to do but learn. The lead scout took a heavy step forward. "You twist our law, human." "No," Davin said. "I use it. There is a difference." "You think one wounded human can stand against 3 of the wings?" Davin did not answer that. He only kept his eyes on the lead scout, and he did not look away. The 2 younger scouts behind the leader began to spread their wings slowly. The air grew thick. The hatchlings shook. And then into that silence, a small voice spoke. "He is not alone." Everyone turned. Suler had stepped forward. She was tiny. She came up only to Davin's knee. Her silver-streaked scales looked thin in the morning light, but she had walked to Davin's side, and she was standing there now with her small head held up. "He is not alone," she said again. Her voice shook, but she did not stop. "He stands with us. We stand with him." Davin moved next. His copper scales rattled with fear, but his feet carried him forward anyway. He stepped up on Davin's other side. He did not speak. He only stood there. Myra came next, half crawling, her wings dragging. She tucked herself against Davin's leg. The green one, the quiet one, was the last, but he came too. 4 hatchlings, 1 injured human, facing 3 war scouts of the Council of Wings. The lead scout stared. For a long time he said nothing. He had come here expecting many things. A foolish human he could frighten away. A nest of small, cowed, cursed ones. A simple task to clean up, and a story to take back to the council about how the soft-hearted humans had been put in their place. He had not expected this. A claim of treaty law spoken correctly. A clutch that had chosen. A sworn protector, even if the human had not yet said the old word out loud. By council law, by the oldest law of all, the scouts could not strike a sworn protector unless the protector struck first. And this human had not even raised a hand. The lead scout's jaw tightened, his eyes burned. But he stepped back. "You will hear from the council," he said. His voice was rough now. "This is not over, human. You have made a small thing very large. The council will summon you. You will answer for it." "I will answer," Davin said, "whenever they call." The lead scout spread his great wings. The 2 others followed. They rose into the morning sky, slow at first, then faster, until they were 3 dark shapes against the pale gray. Then they were gone. Davin let out one long, slow breath. He looked down. Myra was still pressed against his leg, shaking. Suler was still standing tall, even though her small body was trembling now too. He knelt down, carefully, on his good knee. "You stood up," he said softly. "Do you know how few would have done that?" Suler looked at him. "You stood up first." Davin shook his head. "No, you all did, at the same time. That is how it should be." 4 days later, the small ship came. It did not come fast. It came careful and slow, low over the ridge, with its lights dimmed and its engines kept quiet. Davin had asked for that. He had finally sent the signal from his beacon, but with a long list of conditions, and his commander had agreed to every one. The ship landed on the flat stone above the hollow. The dust settled. The door slid open. 3 humans stepped out. A medic, a soldier, and a woman in a long gray coat who carried a small case in her hand. The hatchlings were inside the hollow, watching. Davin had told them about this, every detail the night before, about what humans would come, about what they would do, about what they would not do. The hatchlings had listened and they had asked many questions, and Davin had answered all of them. That was new for them, being told things ahead of time, being asked if they were ready. The woman with the case was named Tessa Wren. She was a xenobiologist. She had quiet eyes and slow hands, and when she met the hatchlings, she did not speak loud and she did not move fast. She knelt down on the stone floor, set her case beside her, and waited. Myra, of course, came to her first. Tessa was very gentle. She used a small, soft brush to take a tiny piece of one loose scale from Myra's wing. She did the same with each of the others. It did not hurt. She showed them the brush before each touch, and she stopped any time one of them pulled back. Davin watched her with narrow eyes the whole time. He had decided he did not trust any new human. Davin was one thing. Davin had earned his trust day by day. But this woman was a stranger. "Why do you need our scales?" he asked. "Because I want to understand the silver marks under them. The dragon scholars have never tested. They have only assumed. I would like to see for myself." Tavin thought about that. "You will tell us what you find." "I will tell you first, before anyone else. That is my promise." Tavin nodded once, very seriously, like an old warrior accepting a treaty. Tessa went back to her ship to work. The hatchlings spent the day with Davin, climbing the stone and chasing burrow creatures, pretending nothing important was happening, even though everything important was. She came back the next morning. She sat with them in the hollow. She did not open her case this time. She only sat, hands folded in her lap. "I have something to tell you, and I want you to listen all the way to the end before you decide how you feel." The four hatchlings sat very still. "The silver lines under your scales are not a curse. They are a gift." Nobody breathed. "There is a poison in the air of the deep valleys of this world. It comes from old mines under the rock. Most dragons cannot fly through these valleys. The poison stops their breath. It hurts their eyes. They turn back or they die. They are dead places on your maps." She looked at each of them in turn. "But the silver in your scales is a special kind of cell. It pulls the poison out of the air before it reaches your lungs. It does not work in every marked dragon, but in all four of you it works, strongly. You can fly where no other dragon can fly." She closed her hands together. "You are not cursed. You are not less. You are the only ones who can go where the others cannot." The silence in the hollow was very deep. Myra was the first to make a sound, a small breath. Then she lowered her head and began quietly to cry. Slow, wet tears, the kind that come from a place that has held too much for too long. Tavin went the other way. He went very still. He did not move, did not speak, did not look at anyone. He just stared at a single spot on the stone, and inside him something was breaking and rebuilding at the same time. The green one pressed his forehead against Myra's side, and they cried together without making any noise. Suler did not cry. She did not move at all. She only looked at her own small claw and turned it slowly in the light as if she had never seen it before. After a long time, she lifted her head. "If we are not cursed, then what are we?" Davin, who had been sitting against the wall the whole time, finally spoke. "You are what you decide to be. That has always been true. Of dragons, of humans, of anyone. Names that other people put on you are only names. They are not who you are. Who you are is what you do every day when you wake up and choose." Suler looked at him. "What if we do not know yet? What if we are too small to choose?" "Then you wait and you grow, and one day you will know." Suler nodded slowly. She stood up. She walked to the mouth of the hollow. She looked out at the long gray sky and the far ridges and the deep valleys below where, somewhere, the poison waited that her own body did not fear. For the first time in her short life, the world did not look closed. It looked open. The hearing was held on the open ridge, under a wide and pale sky. 46 elder dragons came. They landed in a great circle, their wings folded, their old scales shining in many colors. Green stone, red iron, dark sea blue. Some so old their scales had gone almost white. Some so large that, when they sat, they looked like small mountains. In the center of the circle stood one human. He was leaning on a walking stick. His leg had not fully healed. He wore a clean gray coat and no weapons. He had filed the petition through the coalition treaty channels 7 days ago, and the council had been forced, by their own laws, to answer. Beside him stood 4 small hatchlings. The council speaker rose. He was an ancient dragon, his scales the color of dry bone. His voice was slow and worn. "Human, you have called this council. By what right do you stand before us?" "By the right of treaty," Davin said, "and by the right of one who has stood beside these 4 when no other would." A low sound moved through the circle, the sound of many minds turning. "And what do you ask of us?" "I do not ask you to take them back," Davin said. "They do not need to be taken back. They have survived without you. What I ask is smaller and larger." He paused. I ask the council to acknowledge them, to name them, to remove the word cursed from the brood record, and to write a true word in its place. That is all. The circle erupted. Many voices spoke at once. Some shouted that this was not the human's right. Some said the marked ones must remain marked, because the old ways had always been the ways. Some did not speak and watched only. The speaker raised one great claw, and the circle slowly grew quiet. You ask much, human. You ask us to undo a thing we have done for many lifetimes. It is law, it is custom, it is what our mothers taught us. Then your mothers were wrong, Davin said. A great hush fell. No human had ever said that in this circle in this way. Davin did not soften it. The xenobiologist Tessa Wren has filed her findings with the coalition. They have been sent to your scholars also. The silver mark is not a curse. It is a gift. Your marked ones can cross the poison valleys that none of you can cross. For 1,000 years, your kind has called them less, when in truth they were more in the one place that mattered. That is a mistake that has cost you generations of your own children. The hush deepened. I do not say this to shame you. I say it because shame is not the point. The point is what you do now in front of these four. The speaker turned his old head slowly toward the hatchlings. And you, young ones, do you speak for yourselves? 3 of the 4 looked at the ground. But Suler stepped forward. She walked, alone, into the center of the great circle. Her small body looked smaller than ever among the elders. She tilted her head back so she could see the speaker's face. I will speak. The speaker nodded. I am Suler. I am eldest of my clutch. For 11 days no dragon came. For 11 days my brothers and my sister and I did not eat enough. On the 12th day a human walked into our shelter. He had a wound in his leg. He sat down on the stone. He did not touch us. He did not speak loud. He gave us his food. He stayed. She looked around the circle of elders. He sat beside us when none of you would. Nobody moved. I do not ask you to love us. I do not ask you to take us into your nests. I only ask you to look at us now with open eyes and say what you see, not what you were told, what you see. She turned in a slow circle, and she met as many of those old eyes as she could. Then she walked back to Davin's side and sat down. The vote was called. It was long, many spoke. The sun moved across the sky, but in the end the count was held. 25 for, 21 against. Narrow was enough. The speaker rose one last time. He turned to the 4 hatchlings, and his voice had something in it that had not been there before, something close to warmth. By vote of this council, the word cursed is struck from your brood record. In its place we write a new word, silver marked. May it carry you well. Davin left 2 weeks later. His unit needed him. His leg had healed enough to walk on. The hatchlings would stay on Haven Roman 4, raised now by a brood that had not wanted them, and did not yet know how to want them but would learn. Before he stepped onto the ship, the 4 came to him. One by one they pressed their small foreheads against his hand, Myra first, then Taven, then the green one whose name Davin had finally learned was Corin, then Suler. Suler spoke last. You sat beside us. We will sit beside humans always from this day. Wherever they need us, wherever they fall, we will sit. Davin nodded. He did not trust himself to speak. He boarded the ship. Years later, on a clear morning, the first joint scout wing flew through the poison valleys of Haven Roman 4. 4 silver-marked dragons flew at its head, with human pilots in small light craft tucked beside them. The valleys, dead for 1,000 years, opened beneath their wings. And far below, on a quiet ridge, a graying human warrior with a faded leg scar stood with one hand shading his eyes, and he watched them go, and he smiled.